Do you remember those childhood nightmares where you were lost in the woods or a stranger was just outside your window in the dead of night and no one could hear you scream? That primal, unsettling fear of the unknown, amplified by vast emptiness, is the heart of rural folk horror. Join us as we explore how these quiet, forgotten places become the perfect stage for our deepest, most ancient fears to come alive. So why exactly do these desolate landscapes send shivers down our spines? What is it about the hushed whispers of cornfields and the wind that strikes such a chord of terror within us? Welcome back, everybody. Let's get into it. The whispers in the fields. Most horror fans can agree that jump scares and gore have their thrills. But there's something undeniably unnerving about rural folk horror, a creeping dread that seeps into your bones, whispering of ancient, unspeakable things. It's not the isolation per se, but what that isolation reveals. Our own fragility, our dependence on the world around us, and the chilling realization that much of that world we don't understand at all. Think of the countless tales where characters venture into the countryside seeking solace only to find something sinister lurking beneath the quaint facade. Films like The Wicker Man and Midsommar use picturesque landscapes as a backdrop for disturbing rituals. The silence of nature becomes a character in itself, amplifying every creak and groan until the mundane sounds of wind chimes or crickets take on a sinister tone. And we need only look back to real history to see why this kind of horror resonates so deeply. Early explorers venturing into uncharted wilderness or archaeologists unearthing long-forgotten ruins tapped into a primal fear, the dread of the unknown. It reminds us that even in the 21st century, there are still parts of our world we haven't mapped, not just geographically, but existentially. These places, devoid of familiar landmarks or rules, become a mirror to our deepest insecurities, forcing us to confront the unsettling truth of our own vulnerability. But what really sets folk horror apart is how it blurs the line between the familiar and the frightening. A rural setting is meant to be comforting, a place of wide open spaces and fresh air. But when those very same fields conceal something sinister, suddenly the idyllic becomes eerie. The rustle of leaves, the distant caw of crows, the creaking of an old barn all take on a menacing quality. It's as though the very essence of the countryside has turned against its inhabitants, making every shadow seem like a lurking threat. This isn't just about jump scares or gore. It's about creating an atmosphere of tension, a constant undercurrent of dread that something is amiss. And it's precisely this ambiguity that makes rural folk horror so terrifying. We're never quite sure what to fear, which makes our imagination run wild, conjuring images far more horrifying than anything the filmmaker could have shown. Ancient roots, modern scares. Now let's talk about folklore, shall we? Because in the realm of rural folk horror, it's not just the landscapes that are steeped in history, it's the stories that haunt them. And let me tell you, those old wives' tales and local legends aren't just quaint stories meant to entertain. They're potent weapons, sharp as any blade and just as deadly. Think about it. In many rural communities, there are tales passed down through generations, stories of strange occurrences, mythical creatures or ancient curses that loom over the landscape. These narratives become part of the very fabric of the community, shaping the way people interact with their surroundings. It's not uncommon for these stories to feature elements that are considered taboo or unsettling, such as the supernatural, death, or the darker aspects of human behavior. And let's not forget about the power of suggestion. When these stories are embedded in a community, they become part of the collective consciousness. Locals might dismiss them as mere folklore, but that very dismissal only serves to underscore their influence. It's as though everyone knows something unsettling lies beneath the surface, just beneath the veneer of everyday life. This creates an atmosphere of underlying tension, a constant sense that the idyllic surface could crack at any moment, revealing something dark and disturbing lurking beneath. But perhaps the most unsettling aspect of folklore in rural folk horror is the idea that these stories aren't merely fictional creations. Instead, they're believed by some to be true accounts of events that have actually transpired, passed down through oral tradition and written accounts. This blurs the lines between reality and myth, leaving audiences unsure of what to believe and heightening the overall sense of unease. But let's not stop at folklore. There's more to uncover. So buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into the fascinating ways that rural communities play a significant role in crafting the unsettling narratives of folk horror. The blurring lines of reality in the chilling narratives of rural folk horror, the community is never just a passive backdrop. Oh no, my friends! They are integral to the story, deeply entwined with the fate of the protagonist in ways that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Let's delve into the psychology of it all, shall we? Imagine being in a desolate rural setting, cut off from the rest of the world. You're surrounded by towering trees, endless fields, or a dense, ancient forest. Now, picture yourself discovering unsettling clues that challenge your perception of reality. Strange symbols carved into trees, cryptic messages scrawled on walls, or disturbing artifacts unearthed from the ground. As the protagonist grapples with these perplexing mysteries, they're often met with dismissive shrugs and cryptic warnings from the locals. Don't ask too many questions, they say, or some things are best left undisturbed. This lack of concrete answers and the evasive nature of the community creates a labyrinth of confusion and unease. It's at this point that the isolation of the setting takes on a psychological dimension. Without the validation or understanding of the outside world, the protagonist is forced to rely solely on their own intuition and judgment. But who can say where sanity ends and madness begins when you're trapped in a web of ambiguity? And let's not forget the uncanny valley effect. Think about it. The rural community, with its traditional customs and time-honored ways, can initially appear comforting and familiar. But when subtle deviations from the norm become apparent, it creates a disturbing sense of disorientation. It's as if the very foundation of the community is shifting beneath your feet, leaving you questioning the nature of reality itself. But hold onto your seats, because we're about to take a thrilling ride through the most unsettling elements of rural folk horror, the ambiguous, often monstrous threats that lurk in the shadows. When nature itself turns hostile in the chilling narratives of rural folk horror, nature isn't just a picturesque backdrop. No, siree, it's an active participant, a force to be reckoned with, turning from a comforting presence to a menacing adversary. Picture this. You're in a remote rural setting, seeking tranquility or perhaps trying to escape a troubled past. You find solace in the embrace of nature, surrounded by whispering trees, babbling brooks, or rolling hills. But as the story unfolds, the tranquility turns sinister. The forest, once a place of refuge, becomes a labyrinth of shadows and secrets. The babbling brook transforms into a treacherous, otherworldly entity. Even the sky with its ominous clouds and haunting fog seems to conspire against the protagonist, mirroring their internal turmoil. As the lines between reality and nightmare blur, the protagonist finds themselves trapped in a desperate struggle for survival. The elements conspire to test their resilience, pushing them to the brink of exhaustion and despair. Whether it's relentless rain, bone-chilling cold, or stifling heat, the environment becomes a relentless tormentor. But let's not overlook the true survival horror aspect. Escaping the immediate threat, whether it's a creature, curse, or deranged individual, is only half the battle. In a rural setting, survival means navigating treacherous landscapes, battling harsh weather conditions, and enduring the solitude that can drive a person to the edge. It's a testament to the genre's power that it can tap into our deepest ecological anxieties. The wrath of nature in folk horror often reflects our growing concern for the environment and the potential consequences of our actions. It serves as a potent reminder of the delicate balance that exists between humanity and the natural world. But wait, there's more! In the chilling narratives of rural folk horror, the antagonistic force isn't always a singular entity. Oh no, my friends! Sometimes it's the very essence of the land itself, a malevolent spirit deeply entwined with the soil and shrouded in ancient lore. The enduring echo of dread in the tapestry of horror, folk horror holds a unique place. It stirs within us primal fears, tapping into our deepest anxieties and confronting us with the unsettling truths of our existence. Why does this genre resonate so profoundly with audiences today? What is it about the hushed whispers of rural landscapes that continue to captivate and terrify us? In an age of progress and enlightenment, why do we find ourselves drawn to stories that celebrate the darkness lurking in our collective unconscious? Well, let me enlighten you on that, my curious friend. As we navigate the complexities of modern life, grappling with rapid technological advancements and the ever-present hum of digital devices, folk horror offers a compelling counterpoint. It reminds us of the timeless allure of the unknown, the eerie charm of ancient traditions, and the unsettling power of nature untamed. Let's talk about community, shall we? In a world that often feels isolating and fragmented, rural folk horror narratives evoke a longing for a sense of belonging. They transport us to close-knit communities where bonds are strong and secrets run deep, allowing us to confront our own feelings of isolation and the yearning for connection. But perhaps the most compelling aspect of folk horror's enduring legacy lies in its ability to confront us with our primal fears. In a world where reason often fails to provide answers, folk horror embraces the unknown, the unexplainable, and the deeply unsettling. It revels in the shadows, allowing us to confront the darkness that lies at the periphery of our understanding. So, how does this translate to the world of film and television? Well, let me paint a vivid picture for you. Imagine a small village nestled amidst rolling hills, its inhabitants cloaked in secrecy and suspicion. As outsiders begin to unravel the town's sinister underbelly, they uncover a web of pagan rituals, hidden cults, or unsettling traditions that defy the rational mind. Rural folk horror continues to thrive, finding expression in contemporary films and TV series that push the boundaries of the genre. New stories are being told, breathing fresh life into age-old fears while staying true to the essence of what makes folk horror so hauntingly captivating. We leave you with this: some threats aren't easily banished. Some stories never truly end. The dread echoes, the whispers persist, and the fear lingers long after the final frame fades to black. Until next time, may your nights be dark and your dreams be filled with pleasant nightmares.